Welcome into another edition of Hit 'em High with Eagle great Seth Joyner alongside Everett Terry. I'm Scott Seidenberg, reacting to an Eagle victory over the Washington Redskins that keeps them in pace with the Dallas Cowboys to win the NFC East title. We are coming to you live from Parx Casino on My New Phillies Facebook page, YouTube page, and yes, we are on Twitch, so you want to make sure you check us out there. And of course, we're presented by King's Mark Cabinets. Share this episode, comment, we will read your questions and your comments on the air. I mentioned the victory, guys, and it is important because you do keep pace with the Dallas Cowboys, and so next week's game sets up a possible NFC East title game. But there's a lot to look at from this victory over the Redskins and not feel good about. It shouldn't take you till the final 30 seconds of the game to beat a team that's played as poorly as the Washington Redskins this year.
Well, I'm going to put this game squarely on the shoulders of the defense. And, you know, listen, I'm really concerned about the defense and the way the defense has played the last 3 weeks. Because if you go back against the Bears, the Patriots, and the Seahawks, they averaged only giving up 17 points, okay? Now you're talking two playoff teams in that conversation, and one team that's supposed to be in that conversation, but just hasn't lived up to the billing because of the quarterback struggles, okay? 17 points a game against the Bears, the Patriots, and the Seahawks. The last 3 weeks against the Dolphins, the Giants, and the Redskins, they're averaging giving up 27 points a game. That's 10 more points a game.
That's a lot.
Okay? Now, there's some problems on the defensive side of the ball. Okay? I'm looking at the tackling is awful. I'm looking at your top players aren't getting it done the way they're supposed to be getting it done. When I go to the whiteboard today, the theme for the day is where's Waldo? I mean, where's Fletcher Cox at? Okay, because he has disappeared the last couple of games. You mean you haven't seen it at all, and he's supposed to be their best defensive player. You know, you've got confusion continually in the secondary, guys being out of position, guys not communicating. And, you know, the excuse was early in the years, we got a bunch of young guys back here, not sure what they're supposed to be doing. You know, now that you got your full complement back and everybody's healthy, why are we still having these same issues on the defensive side of the ball? You know, defensively, listen, the Eagles are ranked defensively 11th in the NFL going into yesterday's game. They're third in rushing, which is going to be big this week coming up, and they're 17th against the pass. The thing that troubles me even that much more, they're -6 in the turnover ratio going into yesterday's game. That's tied for 25th. That means that we're giving away the ball, you know, as much as we're taking it away, or we're not taking it away enough. So, you know, there's a lot to talk about. We can talk about Carson Wentz. You know, what he's been able to do at the end of the game has been great. I still don't like what I'm seeing from quarters 1 through 3. I don't like what I'm seeing play call-wise. You know, a lot of guys stepped up that need to step up yesterday, but that game should not have been as close as it was. I mean, you're playing against Dwayne Haskins, a rookie quarterback, making his 6th start, and he's averaging 161 passing yards per game, and you let him come in and shred you up for 178 in the first half alone. Problematic, you know, so there's a lot to talk about, but for me, going into next week's game, the biggest question mark is obviously going to be, can this defense get right?
Yeah. And you mentioned Dwayne Haskins. Maybe he got a little boost because his college coach Urban Meyer was at the game. Him and his boy Terry McLaurin were balling out. You said before the game that Terry McLaurin was going to be the guy who was going to make plays, and the Eagles had to watch out for him. Guess what? Early on, who's the first guy to make a play in this game? Terry McLaurin.
Before you go, so I tweeted yesterday during the game after he had that catch.
I saw it.
I said, come on, man. Listen,
I saw it.
They got one guy on that roster that can hurt you. One guy. You mean to tell me you can't take that one guy away? Take that one guy away. And
the argument is with who? Who's going to take him away?
Man, listen, there's so many ways. Listen, you get up on him. You can't line up outside of a guy running 4-5 as a defensive back, okay? You line up with outside technique. You're 7 yards off the ball, okay? And he runs a 4-2. And he runs a slant, and you think that you're gonna catch him?
No.
4-5 can't catch 4-2.
No.
Not anywhere, not any day. I don't care if you road runner, you can't catch him. You understand what I'm saying? So I mean, it's like you got to figure out ways whether you whether you realize that when that guy runs the slant, you drop the safety in the box to take away the slant, and then you take the corner over top, you figure it out. You've got to figure out how it is that you take people away. But you can't let teams' best receivers continue to just shred you week after week after week without you having any recourse, any remedy for taking that one guy away.
Well, the thing about it is we know the game plan. We know what they should do. The execution isn't there. You know, for 3 weeks, we saw the defense try to carry the offense. They didn't do that. Now the offense appears to be putting up enough points and carrying the defense, and the defense is faltering, albeit against teams that the defense shouldn't be struggling with. You know, when you're going up against, you know, the Giants and letting Eli, you know, look like old Eli, and now you're coming up against the Redskins and Dwayne Haskins easily has his best game as a pro, those are trouble and problematic against a guy, Dak Prescott, who's having career numbers this year, throwing to Amari Cooper, who's playing for a contract. You still got Michael Gallup, who was quiet yesterday but always has potential, Randall Cobb in the slot, and of course Zeke Elliott, who's been a problem for the Eagles. Before you get to that, though, you know, and I'm going to take a different approach because I know you're hitting it on the head, but I'm actually going to talk about the pros of what I saw yesterday. So we've been screaming literally all season that guys like Greg Ward should get an opportunity. We saw this kid come out of Houston, and I can't project that maybe if he came in the NFL a little later on, like an age of now with Lamar Jackson and Russell Wilson, he might have not come in at a quarterback. But I tip my hat and applaud him for the hard work and effort that he's put in since coming in the NFL. Understanding he came in undrafted, or he came from a Houston program that was ranked when he was there. Coming in the NFL, accepting that role, working as a practice squad guy, and then earning his opportunity, and then taking advantage of it, and then having a game that finally sets him and says, you know what? I deserve to be here over a Matt Collins. You can get him out of here.
Yep.
I deserve to be on this field as much, if not more, than Nelson Aguilar, who was a first-round pick, overpaid for what he was worth. And applaud and tip the hat to him for his hard work. And Boston Scott, another guy who came in, nobody knew what he was going to do. They were loaded in the backfield. You saw last year with the requiem of running backs that they had that couldn't get anything done. Now you get a guy in Boston Scott who gives a different 1-2 punch to Miles Sanders. Now if Jordan Howard comes back or he doesn't, you don't have to worry about who your running back core can be. We don't know if Corey Clemens is going to play again. We don't know. But you now have that 1-2 punch. You don't worry as much about losing a Sproles. So now they've given them a little bit of insurance and some positivity where you can finally say, you know what? Howie actually hit on a couple guys. Whether it's Joe Douglas or Howie, he hit on a couple of guys that weren't expected to hit on that now have come into the roster and had an impact. That said, coming into this game, you look at who they have to play. They have the Cowboys, who we thought were maligned, didn't know what they wanted. They had a true test yesterday because that defense for the Rams was playing good football coming in yesterday. Since they had gotten Jalen Ramsey, they were playing top 10 football on the defensive side of the football, and Goff was just getting by. Then Goff went back to looking like the old Jared Goff, who looked like he struggled under Jeff Fisher. And now all of a sudden you have a team, the Cowboys, who are motivated. They know what they're playing for. They already know they've beaten the Eagles once, and now they're going up against a cast of characters they have very little tape on. So now the question becomes, what is the adjustment going to be from Jim Schwartz on the defensive side, and what's going to be an adjustment from what we saw with the Cowboys the first time that they played? Because you can't come out and run the same scheme because you don't have the same cast of characters. You don't know who's playing or who's not. But if they want to win this game, they're going to have to come out with a different game plan. And the one thing I'll say is there was a lot more innovation from what I saw in that game yesterday in terms of getting guys open. You saw rubs and slants that you didn't see. I mean, granted, even the catch by Dallas Goedert, I think it was an unintentional rub there with him and Arcega-Whiteside.
Yeah.
But even the fact that they crossed there, when's the last time we saw wide receivers running on the same side, crossing each other to create space and separation?
But you mentioned the cast of characters, and it has changed.
Agreed.
Because you do have guys like Boston Scott and Greg Ward who are getting more opportunities. And Seth, you touched on it last week, these guys that are making the most of their opportunities now at the NFL level. And Miles Sanders has come into his own. I mean, Doug Peterson's not even calling this guy a rookie because of the amount that he has played this year. He just set the record for Eagles franchise, most scrimmage yards and most rushing yards by a guy in his first year. He had 172 scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns yesterday, and that touchdown at the end of the game was just fantastic. He finds himself in the right spot. Whether Howard's back or not, or Scott gets featured more, we know that Sanders is going to be probably the #1 featured guy in this offense moving forward, and they have to maximize that going up against this Cowboys defense.
A couple of things. We had this conversation, not really in depth yesterday, but the question came up: if Ward was capable of this, and Boston Scott was capable of this, what the heck took Howie? What took Doug and his coaching staff so long?
Those position coaches would sleep at the wheel.
To integrate these players into this offense.
Well, can I defend that in one way? And sometimes we hear coaches say this, that some guys just don't practice well. Some guys, it just clicks for them in the game. I don't know what it is. It is intensity level, but there are certain guys that just aren't good practice players. I've had coaches and scouts tell me that when they watch a guy in film, when they watch him on practice, they just do not look the same as they do in the game. Now, there are players that are conversely on the opposite side. Guy I host a podcast with, Chris Landry, former NFL scout, used to be with the Tennessee Titans, told me that the reason why he signed Frank Wycheck was because of what he saw in practice. In the games, it wasn't clicking, and he didn't look good during the game, but this guy in practice showed certain things. That's why he signed him. There are players that just practice well, and there are players that don't practice well. Maybe Ward, maybe Scott, I'm not saying that they are, but maybe that's the case, that when they're practicing and the coaches are looking at these guys, it's just not the same as when you plug them into the game and they're making these plays.
I don't know, because, you know, Malcolm Jenkins said last week, you know, hey, I've been calling for this guy, Greg Ward, to be called up to the 53-man roster since.
Because he's going up against them in scout team and whatnot. Yeah, he knows.
Since training camp. So, I mean, if Malcolm Jenkins saw it, you know, why didn't the position coaches and how come you know Doug Peterson didn't see it? You know, I mean, Boston Scott, I seen the flash 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Right.
You know, I picked him as my player of the game one game. You know, they gave him a handoff. I mean, he had burst, he had speed, he had shake. You know, you watch him return some kickoffs, you know, when he didn't put the one on the ground, he put it on the ground.
Right.
You know, it looks like he's got a burst, you know, but he's relegated over here to not even getting any opportunities to play. You know, conversely, you know, in my opinion, the Eagles are at an advantage from an offensive standpoint. If Doug Peterson can go back and look at what they've done and look at what they've been doing and look at what they did against the Cowboys the first time, because you've got some unique things that they can do with a Greg Ward, okay? They can use Greg Ward the same way that New England uses Julian Edelman.
Agreed.
I mean,
that's where I was going with
hey,
it.
Listen.
Look at quarterbacks who've converted to wide receiver in the NFL, had success. Edelman, Antoine Randall.
Some of those guys,
because
they see the field differently.
Right.
They're looking at it as a quarterback. They can see what the defense is doing, and that's why they find themselves in the right position when they're running these routes.
So I'm waiting to see, you know, how innovative Doug gets with him. Okay, Boston Scott. You know, I like what they're doing when they go two backs in the game together and they're motioning one of the backs around.
Absolutely.
A lot of what they did in the run yesterday, they fly motion Boston Scott from one side to the other. They ran tosses and pitches back away from that. You know, where's the innovation? And maybe they're setting the Dallas Cowboys up with that, because you know they're a fast flow. They're an overly aggressive defense. You get one guy going one way, another guy going another way, because I can tell you for certain that when Boston Scott came back the other way on that fly sweep, he was wide open over there on the other side. So you fake the toss, come back, throw that ball back to the other side, and because you got so much fast flow, now you got Boston Scott out here one-on-one in open space, you know, with either a linebacker or a defensive back, and you want to know something? He's going to win. If he's got space, he's going to win that battle. So I'm real curious to see, you know, can we get a throwback pass from Greg Ward? Can we get, you know, a toss to Greg Ward on ghost motion and have him throw the ball, maybe even throw it back to Wentz going the other way? It's going to take some of those things because of the offensive deficiencies as far as who they're missing. It's going to take some of those plays in order for the Eagles to have a chance to win this game. And then lastly, you talk about the Dallas defense. They had the perfect game plan. Everybody in the league knows, okay, that in a lot of ways the Rams are built the same way that the Dallas Cowboys are built, okay? If Todd Gurley is having a heck of a day, then that means that Jared Goff is more than likely to have a better day. Because when they run their play action pass, when they run their bootlegs and things like that, teams are cued in to what Gurley is doing. I mean, they completely shut him down yesterday. And I knew the minute that had to be their game plan. We're going to come in, we're going to shut down Gurley, and just like every other team, we're going to force Jared Goff to beat us. The Patriots did it in the Super Bowl last year, and he's not that guy without a running game, and that just flies in the face of everything that these passing analytics and these passing gurus have to say. That you throw the ball early to get a lead, but if it doesn't work, you know, if you got an elite level quarterback, yeah, you can get away with that kind of stuff. Right. But what happens when that doesn't work? What happens when there is no run there, and all of a sudden you got a guy like Jared Goff that's already skittish, and now you're getting pressure on him because you're committed to throwing the ball every single down, okay? the Eagles are a different animal. You know, they can do a lot of different things. And in my opinion, Carson Wentz is a hell of a better quarterback than Jared Goff is.
Yeah,
you know,
he's playing like it.
But at the same time, you can't get too far away from the run game and what Miles Sanders and Boston Scott was able to provide in the run game yesterday. I still don't like the balance that I'm seeing. Carson still threw the ball 45 call times yesterday, sacked twice, and they only really ran the ball. Where am I at here? They really only ran the ball 25 times.
Right.
So they threw the ball 20 times more than they actually ran the ball.
Right.
But sometimes it's not about, that disparity. Sometimes early in the game, it's about how can I set the run up enough and be productive enough with the run where I can be balanced and where I can have play action passes and I can do some things to get Carson out the pocket. Because I think Doug is starting to finally realize you can't let that guy stand like a statue in the pocket. He's a much better quarterback when he's on the move, when he's outside the pocket, when he's got run-pass options.
And we all know the NFL is a chess match.
Right.
We all know that. And if you look at what the Cowboys are going to try and look at over this week of practice and preparation, it's not going to be what happened the last time they played, because this is a different Eagles team.
Right.
And you had mentioned all the different moving parts. Last time they played, Jordan Howard had 11 carries. Miles Sanders only had 6. 6 carries for Miles Sanders against the Cowboys. That's not going to happen this week. He's going to get a lot more than 6 carries. He only had, 1 target out of the backfield? 3 targets, out of the backfield. Boston Scott was in that game, had 1 target out of the backfield. That's not going to happen. There was no Greg Ward, as you mentioned, who has provided a completely different dynamic for this offense. This is a different Eagles team that lost to the Cowboys 37-10.
And I'm going to say this, too. I think that Carson has a trust that you see in Greg Ward that you've never seen in Alshon.
Well, I think, and he's trusting too in
he's
trusting in Sanders now.
And I was going to say that he's trusting Sanders. So everybody wants to talk about that pass to the back of the end zone, which was that's the glimpse of Carson Wentz that everybody believes this is the franchise guy that can get us to the Super Bowl.
Guy can't hit a wide open two
and I was just about to say that.
But he can fit it right through the pinhole.
And in the same breath he throws that pass, he turns around and throws at Greg Ward's feet and gets him crushed in the flat. It's just like, I'm confused.
I just think with Carson sometimes, I think that, he wants to win so bad and he realizes that, it's always going to fall back on him.
Right.
He's got to learn how to just quiet his mind and quiet his mechanics and slow down and just realize that,
slow the game
because when you got guys wide open like that, you have to make those throws. You cannot miss those throws.
That's an 8-9 yard play right there instead of an incompletion.
Elite level quarterbacks don't miss those throws.
Yeah.
And those types of throws a lot of times are the difference between you being able to keep drives alive
or 3 and out.
And you getting off the field and giving the other offense, more of a possession. I like the fact that, listen, there was only 10 possessions in the game yesterday, 5 in each half. And in my opinion, if they don't turn the ball over and they don't do some silly things throughout that game, there's even less possessions.
Right.
That's got to be the game plan going in this Dallas game. How do we minimize the amount of times that offense is on the field? Because, you think about the weapons that they have over there, man.
They got weapons.
This Pollard kid is playing lights out. Zeke is playing lights out. You got, Witten that runs like 3 routes and nobody can seem to cover him sometimes.
And he runs it at like a 6 flat.
You got Cobb. You got
Gallup.
Who's got speed.
You got Amari Cooper. He's got so many weapons at his disposal. So how do we shorten the game and minimize the amount of possessions? If they could find a way to get this game down to an 8-possession game per team, and that's going to mean that they're going to have to kind of operate the way that they operated yesterday. Doug said, hey, we're more of a ball control, ball possession, type of offense. That means that they've got to be more productive and efficient on first down. You got to get 4 or 5 on first down.
Cut it down, keep away from
Absolutely. So, it's going to be really interesting to see, what the game plan is and how they can figure this out.
Got some comments coming in. Lionel Hill says, let Wentz work with Greg Ward all this week and nonstop let Scott and Miles Sanders run. A lot of runs that he typed there. Dan also comments in, Howie and Doug making excuses for not bringing up 2 standouts, Ward and Scott.
I agree. And it's inexcusable because, again, that's what your position coaches are for.
E.T., Doug said last week, I didn't know he could do this.
You know what? I wasn't going to say it.
Kidding me?
I wasn't going to say it.
How you going to say
that? We said it
that?
for 6 weeks he could do it, and he said, I didn't know he could do it. Listen, man, I don't have any answers for that. Like that you know, you want to say CYA maybe. I don't understand the logic behind his argument because listen, people know that this kid can play. He's an athlete. He's an athlete who can play football. That's why he can plug into different positions and be successful. Even if you take that into account, going back to what you said about the Cowboys game and the scheme, understanding that they're going to have a lot of moving parts and a lot of moving pieces. Like you said, the Cowboys are going to want to cut those possessions down. They're going to feed Zeke. You know it's coming. So that's where that run defense, maybe this is the game we get a standout from Fletcher Cox because we have to. He has to give you one. This is the game where he finally steps up and plays like the $100 million man that he is, or not. You already know that they're going to try to air the ball out, get it downfield, let Cooper work on whoever the hell's covering. Whoever Darby's covering, that's the go-to. If I'm coming into the game as Jason Garrett, whoever I see Ron Darby lined up on, that's where I'm throwing the ball. They used to be Jalen Mills. You can't say it's Jalen Mills now. It's all Ron Darby because Ron Darby just gets hosted.
It's Jalen Mills too.
Yeah, but it's not as bad. Ron Darby looks bad every week.
I'll tell you this, and like I said, we talked about the lack of communication. I think when you have doubt, when you have doubt in your mind in anything that you do, you're not going to be as effective as you need to be.
Sure.
When I look at our secondary, sometimes they look so unsure about what they're doing and how they're doing it.
Worried about making a mistake.
I would say simplify it. Simplify what you're doing so these guys can play. They can let their talent shine. Jalen Mills has got talent. Ronald Darby has got talent. But when you handcuff their body because their mind is locked up because they're not sure what they're supposed to do, now they're only operating at 60 to 70% capacity. Simplify everything that you do. Stop trying to outthink the opponent and just say, you know what? This is a game where we're just going to man up and our athletes on their athletes, and we're just going to have to perform. Plain and simple. Because if you do it any other way, they're going to have problems. Because you know what? Kellen Moore is smart enough, and Dak is adapted his understanding of the game enough that they will make adjustments on the fly to take advantage of what you do. They've got to disguise what they do pre-snap. They can't show their hand. But I just say simplify the game plan as much as you can simplify and let those guys just go play and fly around and try to get it done.
You mentioned Fletcher Cox, and Seth's going to go to the whiteboard and try to find them for us because he's been missing the past couple of games. It's Hit 'em High with Eagle great Seth Joyner, Everett Terry, Scott Seidenberg here live from Parx Casino, presented by Kingsmark Cabinets, and that's the place to go to for any of your home improvement needs. You go to kingsmarkcabinets.com, find them on all their social media platforms. Not just kitchen cabinets, guys. It's a lot more. They do a lot more, and for the right price, and these guys certainly do the job done right the first time, so you don't have to call anybody else to come fix any mistakes, and they'll fix the mistakes for you that somebody else did because these guys know what they're doing. So head to kingsmarkcabinets.com. Now let's head to the whiteboard where Seth's going to hopefully find out where Fletcher Cox has been.
So, the theme of the whiteboard today is where is Waldo? Where is Fletcher Cox? Okay. This is the guy right here who is the linchpin of your defense. This is the guy, the highest paid defensive player on the team, $100 million contract. You're counting on this guy to be a game breaker every single week. I'm listening to the broadcast last night of the Sunday night football game. They're talking about the Aaron Donalds and the Fletcher Coxes of the world. I haven't seen that Fletcher Cox this year. Now, granted, coming off surgery, he was injured earlier in the year, but he has showed flashes. But I need for this guy right here to be a ball player every single game. And I've called for some things. And when you look at how they align him, finally, we've got Jim Schwartz to take the other defensive tackle and move him out of a 3 technique, which is the outside shade on this guard, and put him down in a 1, which makes the center respect the fact that he's right there, giving you one-on-one with Fletcher Cox right here. The problem is, Tim Jernigan, and we don't have another pass rushing defensive tackle. That's what Malik Jackson was supposed to be for us. He's not enough of a pass rusher to really create the kind of issues over here that you need. I saw him yesterday try to take this gap. The center hit him, and then the guard scooped on him, and then the center went back and helped on Fletcher. That can't happen. If he's in that gap, he's got to get penetration right now. That's going to free Fletcher up. And I just believe that if you put Fletcher one-on-one against any guard in the NFL, he should be able to win this battle. They got to figure it out. They got to figure out how they're going to free him up. I I'd like to see that guy moved inside a little bit, because I'm telling you right now, with his speed and quickness, he'll take that gap. And not just in third down, NASCAR situations. I'm saying move him down inside more often, okay? So now, the other thing, Fletcher, in my opinion, is run some games. You know, you see them kick him out a lot. Kick him out, they'll kick Brandon out here, and they'll move Fletcher out here. What are they trying to do? They're trying to get that guy to move, okay? They need to start running some ETs and TEs here, okay? Getting Brandon down inside and looping Fletcher around, getting Fletcher outside and looping Brandon inside. You got to get some movement. You see a lot of one-on-ones because they think that Fletcher can win this battle all the time. But you got to have some diversity in what you do, because if they think that they're going to get this matchup every single time, they're just going to slide the protection and help. They're going to step the back up and help. You got to move him. And every once in a while, when you walk that linebacker down in there, when you start sugaring these linebackers in the A gaps, come on and bring them sometimes and make those guys respect. Because sometimes Nigel Bradham will walk down in here, the center will look at him and be like, oh, he's not coming, and then he'll move out here and move somewhere else. They got to bring him every once in a while. They got to help Fletcher and Fletcher got to help himself. You know, he didn't really look like in the first half yesterday he really even wanted to play football. And how do you do that in a game of that magnitude? Will this week's game be the same, or will Fletcher finally show up and dominate a football game, because the Eagles need him to have the biggest day of anybody else on the defense to help these guys out in coverage? Back to you guys.
Well, he's going to have to, because he certainly will be an X factor against the Dallas Cowboys. You know, the unsung hero of yesterday's game might have been Nigel Bradham, because of that fumble touchdown. The Eagles covered the line against the Redskins. You know, there was a lot of people here at Parx this morning. And people keep rolling in, cashing their tickets because they bet on the Eagles.
They'd have been mad
and
if
Nigel
nobody
Bradham's the reason. That was one of two bad beats yesterday in the NFL. Or a good win if you had the other side, because sometimes you can be on the positive side of a bad beat. The other one was if you had the under in the Falcons game, right? The Falcons 49ers. The laterals at the end of the game, that touchdown made it go over the posted total. And speaking of laterals, the Chicago Bears had that game. Mitchell Trubisky's running lateral plays. They're throwing. All of a sudden, they got two guys that are ready to take the pitch and go into the end zone, and he fumbles the ball at the 5-yard line. The Packers escape with the victory. I'm telling you, that would have been the third and most incredible bad beat of the day if the Bears would have got that relay and gone in. It certainly was a wild week in the NFL. It started on Thursday with Lamar Jackson. Congratulations. That dude's been balling out all year. He is now the single-season record holder for rushing yards by a quarterback, surpassing the mark set by Michael Vick in 2006. Here's a little bit of history. He is the favorite to win the MVP award, right? We can all agree with that. Joe Burrow.
He is the MVP.
Okay, he's the MVP. Joe Burrow just won the Heisman Trophy from LSU.
The same way Joe Burrow was the
runaway.
Trophy runaway 5 weeks ago. Lamar Jackson is the MVP, right?
It'll be the third time in history that the NFL MVP is actually younger than the Heisman Trophy winner. Lamar Jackson is still a baby.
Wow.
We don't get that. He's 22. Wow. He's doing this, and he's 22.
He can only get better.
He's only gonna get better. There's no doubt about that. And you know, his ability to get better is really going to depend on. I don't even know health so much, because nobody really gets I mean, unless he gets some kind of freak injury, because nobody really gets a true blow on him. I mean, he's kind of like Barry Sanders. Nobody really ever blew Barry up, you know. So I think his success down the road is really going to depend on whether Greg Roman stays there, and if Greg Roman stays there, you know, how innovative he can be. Because I can tell you right now, the Patriots have a remedy for him. Ever since
we know videotape their practices.
Ever since they lost to them, Bill Belichick has been scheming, okay, and figuring out how they're going to take Lamar Jackson.
He better stop Kansas City
out of the game.
That's the question.
Out of the game. So everybody else won't catch up till next year. So my point is, what will Greg Roman do in the offseason to counterbalance what they're doing this year?
Okay.
Because defenses always catch up.
But just speaking of this year, though, We know that if they're going to be the 1 seed, then it's going to come down to New England and Kansas City playing each other for the right to go to Baltimore for the AFC title game. Which team, in your opinion, ET, has the ability to beat Baltimore in Baltimore, KC or New England?
Kansas City has the offense. I mean, defensively, there's no team that's going to stop the Ravens from doing what they do. But offensively, Kansas City can match them in terms of being able to put points up and being able to stay with that potent off. Because let's be honest, Baltimore's offense is juggernautish, and they do it with the run, not the pass. But what it does is it opens up the pass, and then you see Lamar Jackson go and throw 5 TDs twice in a season because of the fact that the running is so effective. The fact that you can't sit back and let him throw because he'll pick you apart. You have to send pressure because then he'll just take off and run. There's so many different ways you have to be able to defend it. It opens up the offense. Kansas City has this guy named Patrick Mahomes who's kind of good a little bit, and this kid throws it all over the field. It doesn't matter. It's freaking snowing, and he's throwing 40-yard bombs to Tyreek Hill. Me and my infinite wisdom starts Drew Lock because I'm figuring, yeah, the kid played good last week. He's playing against a high-powered offense, not a great defense. No.
So what you're saying is you're eliminated from your fantasy
I'm
football?
eliminated from all
He's
fantasy
eliminated from
playoffs
his fantasy
because of
football
it.
playoffs.
You're talking about the difference between the Denver Broncos defense, and
Pat Mahomes does it to everybody,
but
though.
listen,
He does it to everybody.
I get it, but you want to know something? They're going to have to score every possession because Kansas City's defense is not that good.
We agree.
Okay, they're being carried by Patrick Mahomes and the offensive side of the ball. The difference with the Baltimore Ravens is they get it done on both sides of the ball. We're oohing and ahhing, and we're talking about Lamar Jackson, and rightfully so. But what people aren't realizing, that defense is no joke.
Marcus Peters,
And they could get Terrell Suggs because he said that he's not going to go to any team that claims him unless it's the Baltimore Ravens.
No, they don't
need him, but he's still a nice pass.
That guy's
He's
a franchise guy.
Right, just play pass rushing situations. That's it. And he's a veteran guy. He's been there before.
He got released for a reason. Just let me tell you that.
Okay.
Guys get released for a reason this late in the season.
He could have asked for it.
Okay. And he got 5.5 sacks on the year. What? You're going to ask to be released for what?
So he can go to Baltimore and win a Super Bowl.
There it is.
So he can go back home.
There it is.
Maybe that's what. Maybe
he didn't want to leave Baltimore. We do know that he didn't want to leave.
Yeah.
He left because the organization was going in a different direction.
Maybe he's upset that HBO canceled Ballers and he has no more cameo appearances.
I get that. But you have to ask the question too: if Baltimore didn't want him last offseason, what makes you think they want him now?
True.
They get him for nothing now.
Yeah. And non-guaranteed money. And
Sometimes it's really not about the money. Sometimes it's about the fit.
True. I mean, him being there, would he have taken a
He's not an
relegated
every
role
down
to
player.
stay?
We know that,
No.
though. He's not an every down player anymore.
But coming back now, he understands this is a different team, different scheme. The guys that are plugged in are starters. He being here was a starter. He was locked in as a starter. Now he realized, you know what? I'm going to be a situational guy playing on a team that's
37.
winning.
He has to understand that,
He's
too.
at the back end of his career.
Let's talk about the NFC playoff picture now. And if the Eagles are to win this division, they're going to get a home game in the wild card round, and they're going to take on a wild card team, which could be now the San Francisco 49ers, who dropped down to this division race because of that loss to Atlanta, because of the way that Seattle's playing. There was a couple of weeks ago, we were really afraid of this San Francisco 49ers team. Have you started to see some flaws, some cracks in the armor that maybe this San Francisco 49ers team is beatable? And if they have to come to a cold weather spot, maybe it's snowy, maybe it's rainy, maybe they're a team that the Eagles can beat?
When teams go into the season, the most ideal situation that you try to accomplish is, okay, we're going to win our 8 home games. Okay, and then if we can split the four road games, that means that we got a 12-4 season. That's optimally, that's the way, in my opinion, that teams look at their schedule. They're on the road yesterday against the Atlanta Falcons.
Team with nothing to play for.
But when you go to somebody else's house, that's a whole different ball game. They're experiencing some injuries. For the first time, there's a lot of teams that hadn't had to go through the injury bug this year.
And they just came out of a rough stretch, playing some really tough opponents.
And energy levels, are a big deal.
You mentioned that a lot.
When you play a highly emotional game one week, it's hard to get your energy stores up and get your emotion level up the following week. Everybody expects that you're able to do it, but the body is a magnificent, organism. It just, sometimes, the mind is willing, but the body just ain't able. And sometimes that happens to a whole team. Like when the Minnesota Vikings came in here after beating the Saints in the playoffs to play in the NFC Championship. I said, you know what? There's no way that they win that game. It's late in Minnesota on a Sunday night. They got to come in here the next week. They're probably not going to get to sleep till Monday morning. Adrenaline is coursing their body. They're going to be so depleted of energy. And the minute that Patrick Robinson picked off Case Keenum and ran that interception back for a touchdown, over. You know, so I mean, you have to look at those things. Those things play a factor too. I would say you look at the Dallas Cowboys. Emotional. They've been on an emotional roller coaster. 3 losses in a row. Jerry doing his thing. Jason Garrett not sure what the situation is. They're going against a Rams team that knocked them out of the playoffs last year. All of a sudden, they come out and they just thrash them yesterday. That takes a lot of energy. That takes a lot of adrenaline. You know, how is that going to affect them coming into,
they got to get up for the division. This for the division. They got. You said yourself, you can't get up for this game. You can't.
Isn't that what we thought about the Eagles when they went down there?
I understand
and they kind of laid an egg.
But that's my point.
This is for the division now.
But that is my point. Okay, you can try to make yourself get up, but if your body doesn't respond, there's nothing you can do about it. You can try as you may. If your body doesn't respond, and sometimes it's just that way. You wonder why teams, they talk about trap games and why teams come out flat and so on and so forth. That has a lot to do with it, and no one really talks about it. Nobody really studies, you know, the effect that adrenaline has on your body from week to week to week. You know, that's why when I look at certain players and how they were able to play at a high level all the time, that I'm astounded by them. Like a guy like Ray Lewis, how do you get up and have that energy level every single week for 16 years?
Deer antler spray. Deer antler spray, whatever.
Deer antler spray?
Yeah, you know.
I need to go get me some of that.
We're going to get to our Kings marquees to an Eagle victory over the Dallas Cowboys coming up. But first, this word from Parx Casino.
The new Parx Casino $10 million sportsbook changes everything. It's a whole new ballgame at Parx Casino. Watch every single game and sporting event you want on our custom-built 154-foot wide, $1.5 million screen, capable of showing 36 events at once. Bet all the hot action and enjoy tap after tap of amazing craft beer, cocktails, and pub food favorites. Your entire game day destination is here for you and your friends. Sportsbook, beer garden, and Liberty Bell Gastropub. Parx Casino, bet with the best.
So we all know how important this game is against the Dallas Cowboys. There's no other way to state it. This is for the division. I know you have to win week 17 too, so it's not just win this game and you win the division, but in order to win the division, the Eagles got to win these next 2 games. They have to beat the Cowboys, and they got to take care of business against the Giants, okay? Starts with a win over the Dallas Cowboys. So how do you make that happen? My Kings marquee to a victory is going to come from the defensive side of the ball. Seth talked about it earlier, and I think the Eagles really have to do everything in their power to confuse Dak Prescott. What this means is wait until the play clock is winding down to get into position. I want to see guys walking around the defensive linemen all standing up, no one with their hands in the ground just yet. Just walk around, don't show anything until right before the snap is about to occur. Then you can get down and rush. Because if you get into formation too early, a guy that's as talented as Dak Prescott and how evolved as he has been this year can see what you're doing defensively, send guys in motion, dictate your coverage, and then he'll adjust the play accordingly. If the Eagles can keep him guessing, I think they have a real good chance to stop him. ET?
So what I've come to see in watching the Cowboys games I've seen is it's either feast or famine with Dak Prescott. It's either he's going to have a monster game or an average to mediocre or bad game. The key to this game is the same key it's been all year, and it's going to be iron versus iron. That Eagles top-rated pass run defense versus Zeke Elliott. We know what Zeke Elliott does. He usually carves the Eagles up. If Jason Garrett doesn't get cute and pounds the ball to Zeke and they are successful, they're going to win this game. So the key is you have to stop the run. Stop the run. I don't care if you have to blitz, send 10 guys, whatever you have to do. Don't let Zeke Elliott get into a rhythm, so open up those lanes, because once he does and Schwartz starts adjusting to counter that, now you got Ron Darby out there one-on-one against me and you. You got Michael Gallup out there running free. You're going to have a whole host of other problems, and this game's going to get ugly in a hurry. You stop Zeke, they control the game, they win.
Listen, I agree with you. My Kings mark, I actually got 2 Kings marquees this week. I agree with you wholeheartedly. The best thing for the Eagles, when you look at where they rank defensively, is that they're supposed to be a good run defense, okay? And they rank 17th against the pass. I'm hoping that Jason Garrett and Kellen Moore read that stat and say to themselves, we got to take advantage of the pass. I hope that they do it, because yesterday In my opinion, what helped Dallas win that game yesterday is they got back to the formula. Okay, you paid Zeke all of this money, and then he comes in, and then all of a sudden you decide that you're going to turn into a pass team. You know, Dak is averaging 38 passes a game, and Zeke is only touching the ball 18 times a game. You know how many times Zeke ran the ball yesterday? 20. You know how many times Dak threw the ball yesterday? 23.
Right.
That is their recipe for success that they gotten away from. So the first key is, come hell or high water, the Eagles have got to shut Zeke down. I mean, I don't care if you got to go a 9-man front, play man-to-man across the board and 0 coverage behind it. You have to take that element away, because if they get their mix, if Zeke is eating, and they're balanced on offense, it's going to be a tough day for them defensively.
Agree.
And then on the offensive side of the ball, their offensive success, if Lane Johnson does not play, if he's not 100%, he's not able to play, the only guy that I'm worried about on the offensive side of the ball come Sunday at 425 is Big V.
Yeah.
Big V lined up against DeMarcus Lawrence every time, and Doug's going to throw the ball 40 to 50 times. Listen, that guy.
It better be all screen passes and dumps and drops.
That's going to be a problem. You know, if they don't help him, that's going to be a major problem, because that guy can change the game in the run game and the pass game. And if you make yourself one-dimensional throwing the ball, he will eat Big V. But when the game is over, he'll be Little V. Okay, so they better figure out how they're gonna help him in obvious passing situations, and how they're even gonna help him in running situations. Because even if you try to run away from him, he'll shoot across Big V's face before you know it and wreck plays in the backfield. They got to figure that out if Lane can't play and if Lane isn't 100%.
One final question: do we see a trick play on offense?
Yes.
You have to.
Yep.
The Eagles.
I think so.
The Eagles
With
cannot.
A little Philly special or something. We're
using
going to see
Greg Ward.
something.
The Eagles cannot win this game without a trick play or two. You know, I'd love to see the Philly special with Greg Ward.
Yep.
And instead of hitting Carson Wentz in the backfield, throw a tight end throwback on the other side.
Or my favorite play on the goal line is where you have a tackle eligible, the motion goes all the way to the right, and that tackle squeaks out, and it's a throwback to the other side where the tackle eligible just walks into the end zone.
They got to do something innovative. They've got to come up with some things that the Dallas Cowboys haven't seen, because they are a fast flow defense and they are very aggressive. I mean, the screens might not even work because they're that fast. But you got to get them moving one way, and you got to have something coming back the other way. Their defense is that good.
We can get a prop on that. Will there be a trick play? Yes or no? We can bet that here at Parx. Maybe. We'll check that out.
Check it out. Well, you know what? We want to thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching Hit 'em High right here with Seth, Scott, Everett. Make sure you guys check us out next week, same time, same station, on the My New Philly Network, where something's always new
And everything is always Philly.
Such a camera whore, man.
Yeah.
Agreed.